Alright, guys, so welcome to the Window Podcast. Obviously, as you know, we have been off air for a little while. We're trying to make amends for that by bringing you a few lovely guests to talk us through what is a very controversial topic. If you guys wouldn't mind introducing yourselves, we could go from there.
Hi guys, I'm Diane.
Hello, Diane.
Hi,
Hi
I'm
guys,
Danielle.
I'm Ashley. Oh,
Hello,
sorry.
Ashley.
Hey.
Danielle.
Hello, Daniel. And then I'm Josh.
Obviously, I'm one of your co-hosts, Florian. Now, today's topic is one that has made its way through the timeline since no one else has anything to do apart from talk about stuff. The topic is colorism.
Colorism.
Yeah.
I guess before any discussion can be had on it, it's just good to have, I guess, a gist or an idea of where do we think it actually comes from.
I don't know. I feel like it came from slavery. I'll be honest. I know there's that idea that colorism comes from slavery. I can't lie. I do agree with it. I can see the correlation. I haven't heard any other theory that I actually can say makes any sense. Like it just came along with London culture, because it's not just London, it's not just the UK. It really is in every black country, even other countries that aren't black countries. Colorism actually exists. So I think it actually does go that far back, maybe even further back than that. There might be another alternative thing, but as far as I know, definitely I would say from slavery.
For racism, like that came from slavery and hundreds of years of subjugation of black people. And then obviously colorism, which is kind of like within slavery, resonates from like the whole post-colonial thing. So the results of what happens when, black people are still trying to meet those white standards, even though white people aren't necessarily imposing it, but we're imposing it on ourselves.
Yeah, I think that's best. I think that's a very good way of summarizing it, where it's like we're basically self-imposing white standards on ourselves, even though the white people that may have necessarily brought those standards to us, they're not even around no more, but we're still like doing their dirty work for them, if that makes sense. I'm sure all of us don't want to do like a history lesson.
Yeah, we could talk about that for time, but
yeah, we could talk about that for time. But I just think it was a good thing that we address where we think like its foundation is from, where we think it comes from. But another thing I wanted to ask is it rooted in self-hate? Do we think it's something that's rooted in self-hate? Because I've heard the term self-hate be used a lot in this discussion. And it seems like now the term self-hate is kind of being used as like an insult at other people. So when you see other people do things that maybe the majority of black people might not do, we kind of fling the self-hate title at them to make them feel bad about what it is they're doing. For example, I know like during this whole thing, they were talking about guys that relax their hair. And like, they were basically trying to say basically like it's self-hate, innit? But it was toned as like an insult, right? It didn't really seem like, oh, you're self-hating and we want to help you. It was just presented as like you're self-hating and you're a dickhead, basically. So what do you?
Say it louder. Say it louder for the people in the back.
Do you know? I don't actually believe it. I don't actually believe that just because you relax your hair. I know it's going off topic, but just because you relax your hair, you wear wigs, you don't like yourself. Self-hate. I don't believe it.
Men who relax.
How is it different? How is it different? Why only men?
Why only men? Please.
It goes both ways.
Yeah, I'd have to say it goes both ways.
Not
if girls can wear wigs.
These beauty standards are very much applicable to both men and women.
No, but the thing is, with relaxing your hair, that was a trend. It's just like every guy like nowadays has a trim, but that one guy happens to have his hair relaxed. It's a bit, I don't know, for me it's a bit suspect. It's like you're doing this. What is the reason for you doing this? Because I know
maybe it's just a way of expression.
When we were doing
Yeah,
it.
where does it
norm.
where does the line between, oh, this is just individual self-expression and this is self-hate? Where do we know which one it falls under? Because some things might just be individual self-expression. Some things might be rooted in self-hate. So how do we distinguish between the two?
I feel like what she's trying to say is like, I personally feel like what she's saying, it's acceptable for black boys to have their natural hair out. Like, it's normal to see a black boy with a trim and his curly hair is out.
Mm-hmm.
But if you saw a black girl with an afro or her hair, and sometimes like some girls, their hair it's not even long. Like, your hair is very beautiful, but some girls don't even have that type of length. So if you see a black girl with like a skin fade, you're looking at her like, what the hell? So we have to kind of, we have to kind of align with the beauty standards of what women should look like, and having long hair and having nice curly hair or nice straight hair. But black men, they're allowed, they have a lot more freedom to be themselves kind of a way. But we can't necessarily be, when it comes to hair, black women can't be as...
But then again, I've heard a lot of stories about like young, say, Rastafarian children that are boys, and they go to school and then they get all of this hassle from their teachers and all of that.
Yeah,
so there's still a bit of an issue there with, I would say, black males as well. I don't think necessarily it's exclusive to females, but maybe we've heard more about what has happened to females. But I guess the reason why I asked that in the first place was whether we think self-hate and colorism like go hand in hand. I don't know what you
I personally feel like it does, because I feel like I say this with everything in terms of like interracial relationships. A lot of that, like, if you love what you come from, you wouldn't want to go against it. Like, I don't know, in the example that I use of like interracial relationships, I feel like if you love your culture, you love the food you eat, you love the language you speak, you love the color of your skin, like the way that your people look, for you to then go against that and like everything against that, from food to language, you must really not love what you come from. And that's a form of self-hate.
I don't think I agree with that. I don't think I agree.
Why do you disagree?
So I personally disagree, because you can be pro-black but not anti-white, so I can love myself, I love my culture, I love being black, but I just fell in love with a white person, I fell in love with a Chinese person, I fell in love with a mixed race person.
You going out or whatever, being with a white person doesn't make, you not going out with a white person doesn't make you anti-white. As in, black on black relationships do not equate to being anti-white. Just because you
it doesn't. But what's anti-white is saying I can't date a white person. That's anti-white.
It's not about you can't date a white person, but I feel like in most communities, whether that be white, whether that be Asian, it's like their norms are to be with people of their culture. It's that they love what they come from and they want to continue that. But for a lot of black people, it's like for some reason you don't want to continue that. For me, I know that I want to have a household full of African kids that love dancing to Afrobeat, that love eating pounded jam and love embracing that culture. And I don't feel like you have that exact experience with a white guy, personally.
So I don't want this to become an interracial dating thing, but so if a black person is interracial dating, that means they are dating someone outside their race. So that person that they're dating outside their race, that white person, would you say because they're dating a black person, they are self-hating? Or is it only the black person that is self-hating?
That's self-hating.
You see, the thing with that is, I think for white people it's a little bit different. It's a bit.
Okay, what about Asian person? What about an Asian person? So
I would say it's a form of self-hate, because it's not a norm
for the Asian person.
Yeah, it's in their community. It's not.
Okay, but what if it was? Wait, hold on. What if it was someone that was mixed race? Would you still find it as a form? So say when it was decided to date a mixed race person, would that be, which in the past I have, so there you go, but would that now be a form of self-hate?
A mixed race person that then identifies with black and still embraces your same type of culture.
Black culture, yeah.
Exactly, then that's not a form of self-hate, because you're still kind of the same. Whether or not they've got a little bit of white in them, you're still kind of the same because
okay, but then
you
what
have
if it
the
wasn't
same
what?
culture.
So, sorry, I'm just being devil's advocate. So say if I had two guys, and then I had a white guy, embraced my culture, was here to teach about it, even told me about my own culture. I'm from the Caribbean, guys, so just to let you know. But say they even told me about African culture itself, how we got to where we were, where the Caribbeans was originally supposed to be. Like, gave me deeper knowledge than I already know. But then I have a mixed race guy that knows, I don't know if we're allowed to swear, so I'm not going to swear. Nothing about his black side. Like, you'll ask him, oh, where in Africa are you from? And he would, where are you from on your black side? He'll probably say Africa, or he'll go the Caribbean because he doesn't know. But with that, so if I decide to go the mixed race guy now, would that make me mean that I'm not self-hating because he's mixed race?
No, both of them are a form of self-hate. For me, it's not even just the
Okay.
for me, it's not. Let me finish. For me, the topic isn't just the color of your skin. It's it's everything that makes you black, or makes you African, or makes you Asian, or makes you white. If the person that you're with doesn't really relate to that and doesn't like that, then why are you going out of your way to be with someone that just can't relate to you? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Because you're then going to have kids with this person.
But they don't understand.
Let falls chip in. Let's
explore that in the context of people who are typically in the same ethnicity as us. And let's say on the black spectrum, you know, you're dating this mixed race guy, and he has previously shown that, you know, he's exercised self-hate by talking about how, you know, like
he prefers his white side.
Yeah. He prefers his white side, or he's talking about how one of his boys is so blick, or you're so blick.
He should go and be with a white woman. If he really loves white women, he should go and be with white women, because clearly he hates black people. And that's why it's self-hate, because you hate black people and you must hate yourself, because if you don't like your people, you hate yourself.
Is that self-hate though, or is that colorism?
They come hand in hand. That's, you know what, I wanna make like a point. People get in racism, colorism confused. Colorism is between light and dark. Racism is between black and anything else. When people are saying black women are this, black women are that, that's a form of racism, because you're hating on the whole entire race. It's then when people go and say dark-skinned girls are this and dark-skinned girls are that. And the reason why I can then go and say from that colorism, like whatever, that you can now fall into self-hate is because if you're now a dark-skinned person and you take it upon yourself to go and cuss another dark-skinned person for being the exact same as you must not like yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
That's exactly what self-hate is.
No, it's true. If you go and cuss people that look just like you clearly, there's something within yourself that you need to go counselling. You need to see someone. You need to do some self-exploration. It's not me being rude. It's the truth. You need to have to actually look into yourself and get to know yourself and find out what deep insecurity you have that you need to resolve. Because that's so stupid. You're not going to go and sit here now, guys. I'm guessing some of you are Nigerian, if not all, and say, all Nigerian. Okay, fair enough. You're not going to sit here and go, all Nigerian guys smell, or all Nigerian girls smell, or all that. Because say if you're a guy, you're not going to go and say all Nigerian guys smell, like they all stink, because you're talking about yourself. So if you're going to say they all stink, then my friend, then you stink too. Like, you stink too.
Like, why do you have to take yourself out of the category?
I think what it is people try to find self-value, by trying to distinguish themselves from stereotypes. So it's like, wow, if I'm the one black ... that doesn't do what all black ... do, then look at me, I'm special, right? They feel like they get some degree of value by being different from the stereotype. Instead of challenging the stereotype itself and saying, actually, you know what, that's not necessarily true. They just want to distinguish themselves for some sort of self-reward, which then comes to, do you actually really value yourself in the first place? Or are you trying to get value by distinguishing yourself?
Yeah, you're
if that makes sense.
you're seeking approval.
Yeah.
You are. You're seeking approval, and most
And
of the
who
time,
is it? Who is it that you're seeking approval
that's
from?
what I'm saying. Most of the time, you're not gonna go say that to your other black friends. You're gonna. You're saying it to your white friends or your Asian friends or your Chinese or whatever. Your Brazilian friend. It's never to your actual other black friend. Yeah. Oh, black girls are so annoying, man. Or black girls are so this. You're not saying that to them. You're saying it to that other race. So you're just.
To be honest, I say it out of banter. I'm laughing when I say it. I don't actually mean it, but I get what you're saying.
Because what you then do is give them, and you may not be doing it intentionally, but then you give them leeway to then go and or even comfortability to then go and say the same thing as you.
Push that,
because you're saying it. So it's not right.
So for the people that, for example, did tweet stuff about how they were feeling, or tweet stuff about certain races or certain people with darker skin or lighter skin. I don't know, you can think of any of the examples, but what do you say to them then that are just putting that out into the world? What's their excuse? Is that self-hate, or is that, what is that?
No, I wouldn't. First of all, I wouldn't use the word excuse. Like, I don't think self-hate is an excuse for anything. It's just an explanation, but it's not an excuse, because the things that come from it should not be excused, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I mean,
But
obviously
it explains where these things come from. Yeah.
Yeah, some of the explanations that people have gone with, or some of the like excuses that people have gone with, have been along the lines of, I was young, I was feeling self-hate, so i.e. I didn't like the color of my skin, or I didn't like the fact that I was a bit lighter, even though everyone around me was darker, some like crap like that. Like,
so are we talking about Twitter? What happened on Twitter?
I think I think what you're saying is, I think this is what you're saying, because this is kind of what I asked before. Like, is self-hate, is self-hate an insult, or is it something that should make us feel like sorry for someone? Because
nobody wants to be told you hate yourself. Nobody wants to be told like, oh, you're self-hating N-word, you're self-hating C-word. It's like, of course it's an insult. It's always going to be an insult. But loads of people, sometimes in most cases it's the truth, but it's insulting to hear that, especially as a black person.
I think if we really want to make progress, we need to move away from you're a coon, that type of insulting, past that. Because I'm not gonna lie, even me, when I read the word used on people, and it's not even used on me, I'm reading it used on someone. Every time I read it, it hurts me. Like, just to read the word.
They shouldn't be coons. They shouldn't be coons. Just don't be a coon if you don't be called a coon.
It's really, really that simple. Don't shuck
what does a coon mean?
Don't be shucking and
no, and that's another thing. It's like we've widened the definition of coon, to just anytime someone doesn't do something that we think is black enough, we just dash the word out.
Exactly.
And I'm like, come on, guys, like, you can't do that.
Coon, exactly.
Look, in the context of a lot of the stuff.
Because how can we go around with a measuring cup and say, you're black enough, but you're not black enough.
You're not black enough.
Yeah. No, I get what you mean. Alright, so welcome back. We couldn't afford Zoom Premium because we're broke. So, just work with us here. Now, personal histories. Personal experiences with colorism.
Can I just start by saying I haven't had much.
Okay.
I haven't had. Well, because I don't think I was aware. Because maybe they were being colorist and I just didn't notice. I didn't think of it as anything. So I don't think mentally it clicked.
Right.
Where are you from? What area do you live? Or have you grown up?
I was born in Nigeria, so it was a completely different. I didn't even know what the N-word was. I came here when I was like 6'5".
Yeah.
And I grew up in Barnet. I went to all-white primary school, and even then, I wasn't I wasn't aware that I was that different. Of course, I can see my skin, I can see their skin, but I wasn't really. It didn't really click for me that blacks are lesser, than white people.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
It didn't click because I was going primary school and it clicked for me. Like I'm from Essex. So I went to an all-white primary school, all white secondary school. And I can't lie, from when I started, it clicked for me from early. Like, okay, cool, this is a different ball game. I think even from the
but is it because you was conscious of it though?
No, I wasn't conscious. It was just the case of, for example, like it was stupid things. Obviously, you had your little crushes when you're like, that 10 age, that you play kiss chase in school. But when everyone's kissing everyone on the cheek, it doesn't do a cheek kiss. When everyone's giving everyone a kiss on the cheek, everyone from the girl that doesn't even talk to anyone, but you're because I was the only black girl in my year group, But me and myself, no one wanted to kiss me on the cheek.
Yeah, the whole world.
They were my friends though.
But were there black boys in your year?
I was the only black girl in my year. There was 5 black people in the year group, maybe 4. Like there weren't a lot of us. And
the black boys didn't want to kiss you.
The black boys wanted the white girls.
We blink.
You see?
Like the black boys.
You see?
I know Danielle's itching to call them a coon right now. She's holding it.
Itching.
You know what? Actually, at that age, I don't think it is coon because you're a product of your environment. If the majority in your environment are all white, then obviously you're going to be.
When does the product of your environment excuse end? If you think that at that age is product of the environment,
it's never gonna end.
So it's always product of the environment.
Yeah. So if you're cool when you're a kid, you're cool when you're adult. Unless I don't know what happened. I don't know what could possibly happen that you stopped being a coon. I don't know. Maybe you found some self-love or you changed your environment. Then whatever. But I personally feel like it all starts in the household. I said this to someone and they said that was wrong. But if you're in your household, if like everything is embraced, then you're going to end up loving it regardless if you're in a white school. Because I went to primary school in Essex. I did my years in Essex and my mum would constantly reiterate to me, she's like, you're just so black. Like, even though you're amongst all these white people, you're just so black. And I feel like that's why I can never ever fit in. And even when but it's a bit of a catch-22 because then you've got black people like, you're not black enough. So I don't know.
I think I second that, man. My experience speaks to that a whole lot.
Go on.
So for me, before I moved to like what was predominantly a white school, I was in a quite diverse school called like Heath Park in Wolverhampton. There, I found myself amongst black people, so I was in the culture and I was like, amongst people of like the same color as me. But even then, I was still kind of bullied. So like, I was occasionally referred to as black, even though I may not necessarily have the darkest skin tone. Like, there were a couple of, I want to say like, I think maybe like Caribbean boys I unfortunately used to hang around with that would refer to me as that. And I don't know. Like,
I don't think it's any stronger in the Caribbean community than it is in any other community.
No, I know.
Yeah.
But
what do you mean?
He's just giving us his personal experience.
If I'm keeping it a buck, yeah, like there was a period in time where like kids from an African background were getting it quite a bit from Caribbean kids in school.
I don't think it was a case of getting it from Caribbean children. I think it was a case of your skin tone. I saw African children giving it to African children.
I think so. No, so let me chip in real quick, because I actually spoke to my sisters about this, right? Because obviously I'm a guy, so I felt like I had a different experience to them, right?
Yeah.
And when I spoke to my sister's one of my sisters is a couple years older than me, right? And she said, yes, in primary school, definitely, she remembers clear as day, all the Africans wanted to be Caribbean, right? And I think what happened in that desire of the Africans wanting to be Caribbean is
Caribbeans took the piss.
when the Caribbeans were insulting certain Africans for their skin color, that certain Africans that thought they could find validation from the Caribbeans by joining in with that adopted that also, if that makes sense.
I don't think that was I don't think they were looking for approval from Caribbeans.
Oh no, they were.
Yes, they were.
You know what? The thing is, when I was in Essex, the black community was very small. However, when I moved to North London, boy, that's when you could see it in the flesh that, bruv, being African around here is not cool. And that was something that was suppressed.
It's only later on, because another one of my sisters made a very good point, actually. And she was like, by the time she got to secondary school, like Ghana was doing the World Cup, and then there was a Zonto, and there was this and that. So it was a bit like easier to be just Ghanaian. Like it was African. Even like a good thing, yeah. Whereas in primary school, by that time, most of Black British culture was heavily
Jamaican
associated to do with Caribbean.
Vice Cartel.
So I think that's where the desire to find the approval from Caribbeans, I think, came from. I'm no expert. I can't say this is definitive, but I just think that's
wait, hold on. So you're trying to say that colorism? Hold on, wait. I don't know what you're trying to say. What are you trying to say? That it came from Caribbeans?
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
No.
That's not what I'm saying.
Even there's colorism within Africa, within Nigeria. Aunties bleach.
Yeah.
Even young girls bleach. People who've never been to Europe, people who've never been to West, they bleach. You know, so there's colorism everywhere. It's not Caribbean, but yeah.
Big time. Yeah, big time.
I will say though, I'm going to play devil's advocate, that a lot of self-hate for African people may have stemmed from Caribbean.
Not skin though, culture.
Not skin, but culture, yeah.
You eat Gary, you eat this, you eat that.
Yeah.
I think it's the culture. I don't think it was their skin.
Yeah, but self-hate doesn't just stop with your skin color. Self-hate is everything about yourself. So your culture is a big part of being yourself. And if
I will say that Caribbeans probably did have a part to play in the sense that they did look. I can say that they did look down on the culture. It wasn't seen as. But then I can't say that because not for all. Because some people didn't. Some people I know didn't care. Didn't care.
Of course, there's always going to be exemptions. There's going to be exemptions. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
we're not trying to paint every single person with the same brush.
Yeah, for the majority, I guess there was an association. I will be fair enough. There probably was an association, and there probably till this day actually is still an association. So I'm not going to lie to you. So what can you do?
Okay, cool.
But it's nice to know not everyone had the same experience because it wasn't.
Yeah, I think that's the bottom line. We can also we definitely had a different experience from, because I know even just speaking to my sisters, we've lived in the same house, but we've had different experiences. We were all born in like a black school. We all used to live in Tottenham, right? So black as black as you can get school, right?
Yeah.
And then we moved to Enfield, and this is primary school. We moved to Enfield, and we've gone right to the opposite end of the stick.
Opposite end of the spectrum.
But someone like me, I was able to assimilate much easier than one of my other sisters.
And that's how it is. That's how it is in society. Black men are always they always find it easy to assimilate and to go with, than black women. It's always harder for black women.
It is actually hard for black women to blend into a new situation.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Yeah. Why do you think that is?
I don't know, because even going to school,
I personally don't know.
The black boys always got away with it. They could date the white girls, be friends with the white boys. The black girls, us, I had a hard time. We couldn't.
The black boys were popular.
The same. The white boys, we definitely couldn't even look in their direction. Not that we wanted to, but it's not the point. If we did want to, it wasn't an option. Like it wasn't. But the black boys, they could look at the white girls and chill the group of white boys, and still, on top of that, identify as a black man. But we never got
That's how it is exciting.
We had to pick our side. We either chill with the black lot and we consider ghetto and too loud, or we either went to chill with the white girls and consider some bounty or coconut. There was no in between. We never got to be accepted.
Yeah, that's a luxury. That's a luxury black men have got to enjoy since, and that's what's manifesting now.
Honestly,
in that regard, would you say that there's more that potentially black males could do or could have done in order to help black women or black girls assimilate more to
in my experience, this disgusting comments could have stopped. For starters, they didn't need to join in on the comments.
I definitely agree with that. So that's one thing that made me think, you know, you can't have any of these excuses along the lines of, oh, I was showing self-hate, that's why I said, like girls only, I don't like the girls, it's too dark, That's why, me personally, none of those excuses.
Yeah, but okay, so the question is, could black men have done more to help assimilate black women? But when these things were happening, not to say that they don't happen now, but it's most of our conversation has been about the past when we were younger. We were kids. Yeah. Black boys are not doing
exactly.
Oh, black women are struggling with
So are you telling me you're gonna put that
social responsibility on like
on the kid? I agree.
I don't know. On a 12-year-old even.
Okay, maybe not 12. I still would
put that responsibility on a 12-year-old. Yeah, I could.
Thank you.
Do you know what it is? I personally don't believe.
I think
it's the responsibility.
I don't think it's a responsibility. I think it's your duty
of black men.
I think it's your duty.
I don't believe that.
I don't think it's your responsibility. I think it's your duty.
I don't agree.
Do you know what? It's funny because when I was having this conversation with my mum, and my sisters.
The thing is, the fact that you have sisters.
One at a time.
The fact that you have sisters and you see that you know what that whole element of sistership, brothership is or whatever. I don't know. I feel like for every black person, you kind of have that element of like, we're kind of family, especially when you're in a place where you're the minority, you kind of feel like we kind of have to stick together. And I feel like for black women, we have that sense of like togetherness. But in these environments,
but then I heard a lot of stories about black women going into offices and then it's like the other black women are trying to move funny with them. So maybe it's not that as much unity as you guys think.
For one black woman, there's one spot for one black woman. You got to be the best.
Let me go back to my point. I don't think it's the responsibility or the duty of anybody or any group of people to uplift and to support another group of people. Do you know what I mean? So putting that sort of headache.
It's not another group of people. It's your people. It's your people.
Nah, I don't think it's responsibility of black men.
Sorry, hold on. Why do you not think that it's anyone's duty of care, or in this context, why do you not think it's a black male's duty of care in order to ensure that he's not necessarily he's not abusing or putting down anyone who is
that's not what we said.
That's not what the question we're asking.
The question was, should it be their duty to support and uplift? You cannot abuse and not support and not. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, you're an individual. You don't have to, at every chance you get, black women are so beautiful, black women. Just go about your business and don't.
I think that's true.
That's not what's being said.
You can speak up against disrespect against them.
Exactly. It's just like with black far. But if it's like somebody that's around me and I can see that somebody is weak and is being taken advantage of, I'm going to have to step up in that moment, especially on that family connection level. And that's what I feel
Danielle, it's never that black and white. It's never that black and white. It's never that black and white. Okay, so 12-year-old black boys should not have the responsibility. Fair enough, if you see someone getting bullied and someone getting beaten up, great. But it was never that black and white. It was always sly, backhanded comments from people. So kids don't know how to navigate that situation. Even adults don't even know right now how to navigate someone calling a black girl, you're pretty for a black girl. People don't know how to deal with that type of situation. So it's not somebody's responsibility. Like,
so then is it our generation? So we're all in our 20s, right? Yeah. So is it now our responsibility to now be educating those that are coming after us?
Absolutely.
Looking back,
absolutely. But don't should blame the black boys for not doing enough because their parents never taught them. Do you know what's crazy? Most black mothers used to tell their kids, don't bring home no rude black girl with a nasty attitude. They instilled that mentality in their sons from
Are you
early.
sure?
You can't. Some of them. I know some black mothers who did not want.
I'd say a minority if that had been said. I've heard them say that maybe about another race, but not about their own. If anything, they say make sure that's what you bring home. Like I've never heard them say that.
I know some black mothers, the way their outlook on young black girls was always like, oh, they're too fast, or they're too rude, or you know you can't handle her. Like I know most older black women used to put down young black girls. It still happens till today. The older generation is always like, oh, these girls are growing too fast. I don't know.
Because they're jealous of them.
Jeez, that's so cheeky.
They're jealous that they'll come and take their husband.
They were getting married at 20 years old.
I mean, yeah, I think there is a degree of responsibility on us to make sure that those coming after us can at least
definitely
be a bit more aware. We can't force them to do anything, right? It's still in their generation's hand to decide how and what they do. But I think we do have to make them more aware that, hey, this is something that happened in our time. This is some of the effects it's had on some of our men, some of our women. If you don't want that, then avoid this. But whether they will take our word for it, that's a whole different.
Yeah. On that point though, obviously I think we can all agree that there's been like a sort of wave of positive affirmation on your loving your skin, loving who you are, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is all well and good. But what position do you guys take in terms of like, how do you guys feel about that now compared to, bearing in mind?
Do you feel like it's come from a genuine place?
Yeah, is it from a genuine place, or do you think like all this love and hip hop stuff?
How can it be disingenuine?
How can it be?
How can it? Like, that's what
would you gain?
Okay, all right. Well, let me give you an example. So someone may not see it as genuine, or it may not be seen in general as genuine because, for some people's personal experiences, being bullied over, say, a very dark skin tone, or being bullied because of your lips, or the typical features that may come from being a certain ethnicity, you might not necessarily appreciate all that positive love and affirmation stuff now, because before, there was a lot of prejudice and terrible words being said against you. So that's how it can be disingenuous.
It's a very good question. And to some extent, my friend actually did say this to me. She was like, "Oh, this is because when they were pulling up the tweets of all the influencers and all the the big names, and they were saying all those things about black girls, and those same influencers today are the ones that are saying, oh, black girl this, black girl that, black girl magic." She felt like it was, the whole black girl magic trend was like you said, disingenuine. Like people didn't actually mean it, and just because it was trending, it was a trending thing to say, it was a trending movement. That's why everyone was jumping on the bandwagon. But they don't.
But isn't that with everything, though? But is that not with everything in life? Like, it becomes a bandwagon. Some people are genuine, but then some people just jump on the bandwagon, and maybe along the way actually decide to educate themselves and then learn to support the movement. But for the majority of the time, it does actually become a bandwagon. And then you educate yourself, and then you learn, and then you realize, oh, okay, this is it. Like, and this is what it's about, and then you decide whether you're going to be a part of it or whether you're not going to be a part of it.
Well,
so
I don't know, but yeah, I don't know, but some black girls genuinely feel like, oh, you don't actually mean black girl magic, or you don't actually think black girls are nice, so you're just saying that to get views, but you're just saying that so people can support you with their money.
Yeah, there's that too.
I think that's a very fair thing to put out there. I don't think absolutely everyone is genuinely on this wave. Like, I mean,
wait,
I can't go around measuring.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I don't understand the question. What's the question?
They're basically saying that people are jumping on bandwagons. You know, when someone says dark skin girls are stunning, or black girl magic, and this, that, and the other, they're basically saying that some people actually don't believe it. They're just jumping on a bandwagon. And what I basically said is, as much as it could be a bandwagon, that's like everything on social media and in life. It's a bandwagon at first. I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of people then educate themselves whilst they're on the bandwagon and then decide whether they want to be a part of the movement or not. But for most things in life, it generally is a bandwagon type of style. Like that's how people jump onto for certain things.
I agree.
I mean, yeah.
So I just think that's with everything. Like when Chris Brown, for example, bad example, I know, guys, but Chris Brown beat up Rihanna. I don't know if there's some people that saw that he didn't even know the whole concept where it was wrong regardless. I would never agree. But some people just say, yeah, it was wrong. They didn't even know the fact that he'd even beat up Rihanna at that point. They just knew he'd done something wrong. But then they educated themselves and learned, oh, he actually proper punched her, this, that, and the other, proper messed her up. And then decided, okay, cool, what he did was wrong. But before they even knew what he did, they just heard people saying he was wrong. They decided, yeah, Chris Brown is wrong. So I think a lot of the time it can start off like that. But that was a bad example.
It's different I think it's different like when it's something like people's physical appearance, I don't know, it's a bit hard.
Like a whole race of girls.
Yeah, like how can the way you look be a bandwagon? It's just like
no, but Danielle, like even being blonde with big boobs for white girls was a trend.
It's a trend.
Big titties, big titties, blonde was a trend.
Like looks are trends, and it is a bandwagon.
It's true.
And people then decide whether they're going to jump on it or not. For example, grey hair. There was a time when grey hair was proper in.
Oh my God, yeah.
Jump on that grey hair bandwagon. I've jumped on it now. Cool, it don't suit me. Okay, I don't like it no more. But I might jump on it and be like, cool, I actually like this grey hair thing. Let me learn how to do it myself. Now I know that grey hair is actually my new hairstyle for the next 3 years. But in order for me to jump on it had to be a bandwagon. Otherwise, I would have never got grey hair.
For the grey hair trend was to support or to encourage older women, more mature women. But I agree with Ashley. I agree with Ashley.
Okay.
I think that's just another side to look at it.
I definitely feel like there's an element of truth, but it is kind of one of those sad truths.
It's a sad truth. It is a sad truth.
It's that your skin color shouldn't be a trend, because when your skin color now falls off the trend, what are we back to square one where you don't like dark skins anymore? Like our dark skins are out of fashion now, so we're just not we're gonna go back to hating on them. And I think that's my biggest problem is when people like the thing with trends, we can let them go, but we don't now go and hate grey hair. We just let it go.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. If this trend falls, do we go back to hating on dark skin?
Well, hopefully not.
I don't think we're ever going to go back to hating dark skin.
That's a very, very good question.
I don't think we're going to go back to hating dark skin. I don't think it's going to be as bad as it was before. I think, it might not be as a trending topic, or Black Girl Magic might not be the buzzword anymore, but we're not going to go back to calling people ugly, bleak.
So do you genuinely believe we've made enough progress to say that foundation that brought about that colorism and self-hate back then, even though I guess it's still around now, but
I think we have.
Do we genuinely feel like we've made enough progress to say that foundation will still not be there for that thing to come up again?
No,
it could be.
I think the dynamic has definitely changed. So
it's changed, but it can still come up.
How so?
Do you think? I feel like his question is based on: do you think people are ever going to go back on Twitter and be like, black girls?
Because that's what happened. It still happens.
I think people still do come. It's not. I feel like there's going to be a lot more people that are going to be so much more quicker to shoot them down.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you've got to remember, we've got a whole new generation of Twitter users that are coming up very soon, like in the next couple of years, and they might decide that they have their own persona. So we can say it's wrong, but they might decide, well, it's right. We can educate them, yeah, fair enough, but they still probably will have the opportunity to make that tweet until they're educated. I don't think they're all
even if I take
woke state.
Even if I take people like my little sister, like she will be talking about, I don't know, stuff like Love Island in her group chats with her friends, and the boys will like, if there's like a light skin or mixed race girl, automatically they're just like, oh my god, she's so beautiful, or and then
but who do they learn that from though?
Their parents.
I think that's just that it's parents, but I think it's your surroundings. Like my little cousin, for example, I've never G-checked someone so quickly in my life. She literally said to me one time, we were sitting there, she was like, yeah, like she was talking about one of her friends, and she was like, yeah, but you know, she gets all the attention because she's light skinned, and you know, other girls that are darker than her are a bit jealous. And I said, this is coming from someone that isn't light, she's dark as well. And I said, I've never checked someone so quickly. I said, because her mum's not like that, as far as I know. But like, and I said to her, like, where did you get that from? And she was like, everyone's thought like that since school days. Like everyone's, that's just been the consensus. So it's definitely, as much as it's dying out maybe amongst us, we still are going to probably have to educate them. They're still going to have to make that mistake of calling a dark-skinned person XYZ or having a stupid mentality.
If the people coming behind us are liable to the same pitfalls that we faced, how are we making any progress?
I don't think it's going to be the same. I don't think it's going to
be as in our faces, because I think we're a little more woken up that we can actually correct them. I think with us, we weren't corrected a lot by the older generation. And I think that's what it was. We weren't corrected. I think for now, for us, if someone makes a comment about skin tone, especially as a black woman or a dark skinned woman, there is outrage. You're not about to do that. You're going to learn today. That's not what you're going to do. Whereas with us, I don't feel like we were taught that. Like I was very much taught when I grew up and my mum was raised here. So maybe that's why don't ever come with any sort of comment that is derogatory towards black women or dark skinned women. But my mum instilled that into me. Don't do it. Like that's an issue. But not everyone had that, and that's a majority. So I think that we can teach them that.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's on us, guys. Come on.
No, I feel like because it was so normalized back then that it's just like with the whole,
especially within the African culture as well.
Yeah, like it's just like with the whole like homophobia thing within like the black community. Being homophobic for the longest time has been fine, but because we're moving towards a society where being gay is, that's you, and we've just got to learn to kind of accept that is a person's whatever, that we're moving with the times. And it's the same thing with this type of issue. Once upon a time, it was normal to want to bleach your skin, to want to be light or whatever. And the fact that we're now challenging the norm, all we can do is continue to challenge it until we finally get to a stage where we just accept it and we create a new norm, and then we can, create a change
where no one cares. If you're dark, you're light, whatever this brown skin thing is or whatever, whatever color you are, it is what it is. Like there's no discrimination. Like we need to move towards that point.
Yeah, but it's human nature. We're just gonna find something new. I feel like we're just
Can we move on to the topic of hair now? Because I think hair and is basically colorism. Like it's not directly related to skin tone, but it is a huge effect of colorism.
Okay. Let's, if we're gonna do this, let's do it just, because I was speaking to someone and I brought up bleaching and I brought up hair, right? And I know I've spoken to women before and they've said with the hair thing, it's because of like, it's seen as less professional, or it's seen as, what they basically said that it's taken a wrong way. So that's why there's a pressure to do stuff with your hair, right? With bleaching though. So Danielle, if someone was to bleach, would you label them the C word? Would you go on that onslaught if they were to bleach?
Quick disclaimer.
Would you say that it's self-hate, but it's not self-hate insultingly, but it's self-hate and we need to help you?
I personally, let's get this straight. I personally don't use the word coon. I don't call people coon or whatever.
You seem like a big advocate for it.
No, I'm a big advocate for your you're drowning in self-hate. But coon is not part of my vocabulary. I would maybe use the word bounty. I would say Oreo, but I wouldn't use the word coon. Just say it. But
I would use the word coon.
Okay, I don't want to portray you in the way that you do.
I don't know. I feel like coon.
I would say coon.
I feel like it's so related to like slavery. Like I feel like a white person would say that or something. Like it just sounds bad. But no, the thing with bleaching or whatever, it's you're just lost. It's just pure being lost. The fact that you can't even look at yourself in the mirror and just feel like the color of your skin makes you so sick that you need to use acid to remove it. You must hate yourself so much.
To that, Danielle, I say, look at all the Nigerian. Look at Bobrisky. Look at all the Nigerian influencers, all the Nigerian slay mamas, all the babes. All of them bleach their skin.
Yeah, but Bobrisky
and it's not
hated
the fact
himself.
that they hate themselves.
No, Bobrisky hated himself. He speaks about it all the time. He hated himself. He was black. He was in the sun, and he was poor. And they just
he was a man.
Equated. And he was a man. And he hated being a man, and a dark man, if that. So he's a product of self-hate.
So he's an extreme example. What about the girls then? What about the girls, with the sugar daddies going to Dubai, bleaching their skin, getting a bum? It's all to look a certain type of, it's all to look trendy.
But I don't even, what the thing is?
You might not hate yourself, but
the conversation with Africa is completely different because I don't understand it. My mum really pushes the fact that in Africa, being dark is like adored. It's only, my mum said it's like only like the younger generation that is into like, not that African women don't like, no, African women like bleaching, but my mum said, like, my mum's light skin, and she said that she's noticed that it's harder for light skinned women in Nigeria to get a husband and someone take, like, you see how we say that our black men,
because they're seen as more attractive girls, and they're seen as more.
You see how over
like,
here we see like black men say we go like our black men like going out with white girls because they're a bit of fun and they never take them serious. That's the same context it is in Africa where they go out with light skin women. They're not taking them serious, but the ones that they marry and wife and have children with, may potentially cheat on with, is the black and the dark skin women. But that's what my mum said.
Rather, being a wife or being a mistress? What would you rather?
I don't even know.
Oh mate, wow. Yeah, I don't know. Even with self-hate, like obviously the only form of, I feel like colorism is just a possible form of self-hate, but self-hate can be so many different ways, right? Because obviously you could hate yourself about
that's one of the reasons
your
why I
weight
think
or
it's
something.
important to separate, man. It's super important to separate because, like, you can exercise prejudice towards someone that's a different skin tone, but but self-hate shouldn't be used as an excuse for colorism.
But I wouldn't say excuse, but it's just like it's like a cause. Like,
it's a cause, yeah. It's an explanation for why it manifests, but I wouldn't say it's an excuse.
Because like
not even. Because
it's gonna be caused from somewhere.
You can exercise prejudice because you just straight up are prejudiced. If there's similar to the way someone's racist because they don't like black people or they don't like white people, they like Asian people, is because they're just racist, they're prejudiced.
I don't think that's always the case.
Principle.
It's not as simple as that though. There's a reason why they don't.
I think it's personally
obviously there's a reason, but that I don't think self-hate should in any way, shape, or form be used as an excuse or in conjunction.
That's why we've said more than once that we're not saying it's an excuse. We're just saying is the explanation cause. But we're not saying that it's an excuse. Excuse is something different. Excuse is basically saying, because of this should be allowed. We're not saying it should be allowed because of anything. We're just saying this is the cause of it. We're not saying it should be allowed.
Yeah.
That's a different conversation.
I really don't want to take it that far. But like with the whole R. Kelly situation, you could say that the reason why he is the way he was is because of what happened to him in his childhood. But it's not that everything that he did was right, but what happened to him in his childhood is what made him what he is. And it's the same thing with colorism. in a lot of cases with colorism. What happened to you or what you grew up in when you were young is now the life that you live. Not to say that that's fine, the life that you're living, hating on a certain type of people,
but it's all you know.
that is the reason. Yeah,
it contributes. Yeah.
Okay, no,
That's a good example. That's a very good
I guess
example.
you can hate because you've been hated on.
Yeah,
the abuse becomes the abuser.
Hurt people.
Yeah, the abuse becomes the abuser.
That is it. Hurt people.
Yeah.
I guess that's a nice summary for today.
Yeah, that's a nice summary.
Today's episode.
A nice summary.
Everyone should love everyone, man.
I hope we just all come together. You know, guys, I have this little piece thing to say. No, I just hope eventually it all just comes to an end, because this is just ridiculous. I think at least we're doing something about it, though. I think we'll
it's a topic of
What are we doing about it? What can
we're talking about it? We're acknowledging that it's an issue. That's the big step, believe it or not. Because before we were laughing at people's jokes with them, but not me personally. But people were laughing with them. But now we're saying, excuse me, no, that's not funny. And in fact, you might have said that 5 years ago, but you're going to pay for it today. So believe it or not, that's a huge step.
Like we now have a seat, at the table.
For sure.
Exactly. We have seen it for ourselves. There are black girls, black men that are coming out, maybe even white people, I don't know who they are specifically, but are coming out and saying, nah, that ain't on. So,
and I personally feel like it's a shame that with this whole cancel thing, but it's a shame that we have to make an example of a few people, but somebody has to be held accountable. And for us to make noise, like if you don't cancel everyone in the name of screw cancel culture, then we're not going to make noise. You're just going to think it's fine that every time that you fuck up, you can just say sorry. Somebody has to be made an example of, and unfortunately, it had to be one of our big ones. But it had to be someone.
Do you feel like this colorism issue has kind of matured and gone to secondary school, went to university, and has turned into certain type of rappers, certain type of athletes dating certain type of women, certain type of...
You know what the thing is?
Prominent guys in the media dating certain type of females.
The thing is, I don't use rappers as an example for all the black men, because I feel that a lot of black men are very, very different to what the media portrays.
Let me rephrase my question. Successful black men in the media only date a certain type of female. There we go.
No,
I'm not talking about all black men. I'm talking about successful black men in the media.
Because for example, a lot of successful black men only like women, like say in like the finance industry and all those corporate things, they like white women. However, in like rap and everything, it's not a lot of white women that are the wives, and the baby mums just light skinned women or whatever. Even though you can say that it's never a black woman, they're not all the same. And I feel like in the reality, in the world that we're growing up in, there's the successful men that we like, that we're actually growing up around. A lot of them actually still do really like black women or love black women, because the black race still continues. So, and someone's keeping it going, and it's not all these white people and these mixed race people. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think sometimes with these discussions, we jump or we begin them from the wrong place. Like, I believe we should start these discussions with, hey, you know what, 85 to 90% of black men marry black women. However, there is this issue with ... On the other hand, we should say, hey, you know what, most black women don't bleach. However, there is this portion that do. If we start those discussions by saying, you know what, the thing that we disagree with, isn't actually the norm, but it happens, I think that's a better place to start the discussion than to jump straight to the thing that we think is not right and act like that is the norm for everybody.
Nah, I'm not talking about black men in general. Notice I said successful black men in the media. She meant in the media. A lot of black men do date black women, which is very correct. But the ones that are doing the big things, air quotes,
that do image
black women.
That do up Instagram.
They're not flaunting black women. Exactly. They're not flaunting black women. They're not entering. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. So it's not. I know black men date black women. It's very, very obvious in Barack Obama and Michelle Obama. But I'm talking about the image gang. You know, the ones that will post up Dubai.
But why does that matter? Why does that matter? Why does that matter?
The thing with social media, or not even social media, just the media in general, the media is what starts trends. Like with this whole talk about body shape and everything, everyone wants to be curvy and have the BBL figure and whatever. Even though the majority of girls don't have that type of figure, every guy wants a girl that has that figure. And then we could talk about why does every guy want a girl that has that figure when that's not the norm? Because that's what's put out there. And then it's the same with men wanting these light-skinned women or whatever, because in the media, what is cool and what is hip is to have a trophy light-skinned babe, when the majority, that's not their reality. So I don't know, we've got to take ourselves out of the media world.
I feel like you're avoiding the question.
No, that is the answer to that question. So, like, the problem cascades. Like, if you have people who have a huge effect on the larger population, the things that they say and the things that they do matter. So, one of the things that they do, which isn't necessarily, is it straight up not right, is saying, okay, this selective hue or this selective skin tone is what is it and nothing else.
And it's not even if it was just light skinned girls, then I can understand. It's everybody else but dark skinned black girls.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? If it was just, you know, light skinned, is the Kim Kardashian, is the Kylie Jenner, is the what's the other one? The ones with the mixed tanned olive skin, it's everybody else but black women.
Yeah. Do
you know what I mean? So that's what I personally see it as. I feel like colorism, racism, whatever, it's just graduated now into another type of, people are not obviously going to come out openly say you're ugly or that, but they're not going to show you off. They're not going to post you next to Lamborghini.
You know what it is?
You know?
It's true.
It is unfortunately, it is the way life is. Like back in the day with racism was simply, I don't like the way you look, I'm gonna whatever. Now we've moved into the days of institutionalized racism where people at the top are gonna stop you. It's the same with colorism. Just because it's not so in your face anymore. It's not
exactly
you're this, that,
it's still I don't want you in my club.
I'm gonna hide you. Yeah. Or you can't come into the club.
Exactly.
Don't even. You can't come in. Oh, don't.
Unless you have a table. Even if you have a table, you can't come in.
But all of a sudden, they put you on the guest list, but then they see your face and you're not light skinned, you're not white.
We can't do this today. We cannot do this.
Oh, you're not on the guest list.
We cannot do this.
All of a sudden, you're not on the guest list.
Nobody's on the guest list
because
nobody can get on the guest list because of coronavirus. So we're all at home.
We're all at home, man.
We're all at home. No entry for anyone. But I think
that's a big point as well. The fact that we're all in the same boat, so we need to just let black women rest because we're all the same. I'm being honest. People need to stop getting onto black women. Let black women rest. We're all the same. Whether we're more vocal or you're quieter, we're all the same.
Yeah, I appreciate it. A glass of rosé. We're very grateful to be here today.
We are.
Thank you for joining us.
Alright, so number one, I'm going to start with Demi Mondaine. Demi Mondaine is a project that's in the works. The Instagram is Demi Mondaine London.
Mondaine.
Demi Mondaine.
Mondaine. Okay.
If you want to find out the definition, go on the Instagram. And then there's also a Glass of Rosé podcast. That's also in the works.
A glass of rose.
Start a glass of rose. That will be coming out after lockdown when we can see our friends again.
And we can socialise, get together.
If you want to get your wig slayed, I'd also shout out hair.
Oh gosh,
I'm gonna throw that out there. And D Lola on the YouTube as well.
Ashley Rose on YouTube, guys. Watch my video. I just done a video on growing up as a black girl in Essex and what I experienced. Yeah.
And I also just did a video on Let Black Girls Rest. So go check that out as well.
I'm
A lot
gonna
of
go watch the
practice.
video.
Yeah,
Just
outside
as a
perspective.
cheeky disclaimer as well, like I don't know if you're gonna throw this in or if you're not, but I feel like a lot of people are gonna probably try and say that we're just a whole bunch of angry black women. But I want to just reinforce that there's nothing wrong with being an angry black woman because we're entitled to be angry.
Oh yeah.
Do you have an outro?
Yeah, we're gonna have music that brings us in and music that takes us out.
No,
Yeah.
not music. Like, do you not have like something that you say like to like knock you guys out?
Usually, I would say like we'll just wrap it. We'll literally say like it's a wrap, and then we'll cut it, and then we'll play the outro.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Say it then.
Say it then. Say it.
it.
It's a wrap. It's a wrap. It's a wrap.
Alright, cool. It's a wrap. It's a wrap.
It's a wrap. It's a wrap.
It's done.
It's a wrap.
We're finished.
Yeah.
Done.
Alright.